The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethymarket.com. Ethymarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers.
We are beginning to remember our organic technology. Technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology through experiment and experience our power to create and manifest.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Collective Imagination Show. I'm sorry for the late start. We were waiting for Barbara to join us, but she hasn't. And unfortunately, she's MIA. I don't know where she is, which is very unlike Barbara. So if you can hear us, darling, let me know you're okay. I have been wanting to have what I think is probably going to be a confusing and potentially controversial discussion. And I really did want Barbara here for it, but I'm glad I've got as many of you as I do have in the chat room. And busy to put the calling numbers up there. So I'd love for you guys to call in because honestly, me trying to talk about this for 2 hours is going to be on my own a little bit tricky. So the subject is the chakras and the Kundalini. And even a week ago, I was seeing people's posts in regards to removing their chakras and thinking, oh my God, what the fuck are people thinking? And yet it kept coming up. It kept coming up. Different posts on Facebook, different, it would come up in interviews I was listening to that didn't seem to be focused on that initially. And I thought, all right, I need to look at it. So I did some snipping around and got to the point of seriously questioning. Okay, what are they? Are they really an organic part of us or not? And if they are they manipulatable? And there have been actually a considerable number of people now who claim to have removed their chakras or had them removed for them. And yes, they're still alive and well. Many claim that they're doing much, much better, feeling much better, that they're actually, there's been two sort of distinct, either psychic abilities are really enhanced or gone the other way and they're not feeling as intuitive. But for the most part, most people are saying that they feel better and their abilities are enhanced. So I just wanted to get a feel for this community's take on the subject or experiences with it. I'd love to know if anybody's actually gone through a removal process. And let me know in the chat room or give us a call. And just as a side note, if you weren't live with us yesterday, but you have some idea of what we did, or you haven't got your PIN number to us yet, you can just PM me on Facebook or on Skype if you have me on Skype. Or send me an email with your PIN number if you want to participate, and I'll add you to the list. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you'll have to wait for the archive, but that should be up within 24 hours. so I'm told. But Sheila's saying she had some weird experiences after the show last night, which is interesting. It's uploaded now. Okay. Thank you, Biggie. And if anybody's having issues during the show, just please, with the stream, just please put it in the chat room or let Biggie know somehow. So a couple of you did have some strange experiences after the show yesterday, which is interesting. Let's get into that if you can. Give me a call. I'd like to know more, or put it in the chat room if you can't call in. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to, this is going to look weird, I know, but I'm having a conversation with the chat room, so sorry about that. What's the reason for chakra removal? Well, the general discussion around it seems to be that they are not organic, that they are a, for want of a better word, because I don't like this word necessarily, but an implant. That they are a way of putting a stop gap on our energy flow. That they stopgap, yeah, a way of interrupting the flow and tapping into the certain energies that they relate to. Harvesting, basically a harvesting tool. How do people know the chakras have been removed? Well, some of them get feedback from a person who can see them, so they'll actually see that person first and have that person, you know, describe their chakras and what's going on, and then go back to them afterwards, and the person freak out and go, oh my God, your chakras are gone. A lot of people who work with chakras, energy healers who work on chakras, believe that you cannot live without them. They actually do panic when they detect that someone's chakras are gone or missing or whatever. Chris, what are you totally against? Because I really want to know where people are at with this and what their experiences have been, because it's a big discussion, and people are either doing things like removing their chakras and it's dangerous, or they think they're removing their chakras and they're not really doing anything, or this could be a huge step forward if we actually do recognize them for something that is not to our benefit and become aware of it and do something about it. So don't back away from the argument. There's no argument. I'm totally open to anything you've got to say. I think I never understood or used them. I've had a lot of people say that too, that they just never, and people say that to me personally, that they've never sort of resonated with their chakras, and they've never focused on them, they've never used them, they've never done balancing of them, they've just never played with them. If they are part of us, then leave them. As Lily says, we have to heal our whole self, and that resonates with me. Yeah, I had my chakras opened and balanced, and that's what started my big awakening in 2010. Don't know what to think about them being removed or closed. Chakras are implant for control. Okay, so we've already got different opinions going on in the chat room. Couldn't tap into them. Yep. You do not need to remove them. If you have problems, you can simply turn them off. Okay. What about the Kundalini? Because even before I started looking at the chakras, I was looking at the Kundalini. And, you know, and there are psych wards all over the world that are full of people who've had a Kundalini awakening and they never came back. It seems that the most, how can I put this? Common thought on this is that in conjunction with the chakras is that there is a very balanced, natural way funneling the energy through the chakras. And what the Kundalini does when it activates is it kind of bypasses all of that and go straight from the base to the crown. And because it doesn't get balanced by all the chakras on the way up, it blows the brain basically and blows the crown chakra. I have heard from 2 people who have consciously used the Kundalini energy of another person to do harm. My thought on this was that what it felt like to me was that the Kundalini itself was in fact an implanted fail-safe mechanism, so that if you did sort of activate your chakras properly and have a positive awakening experience to prevent that, the Kundalini would get activated and kind of blow it up. I don't feel positive at all about the Kundalini, regardless of the chakras. That's where I'm at on this. And I will share with you an experience that I had on the weekend. But I was confused about how to get in touch with them when I thought that's what we were supposed to do. I have tried to tune into them, but it just never happens for me. It's not a knocking noise, it's frogs. So frogs will not shut up. Chris, you do seem to know a lot about chakras. I'd love you to call in. If you have, there's no issues at this end with the stream, Candy, so it must be at your end. No, not Candy, Barnaby, sorry. I can tap into all of the problem. Ribbit, yeah. Come on, somebody's got to be able to call in on this one and have a conversation with me instead of me reading it all out of the chat room. Okay, so what I did on Sunday is I went down to the beach and I sat there and put my hands and my feet in the sand. And I did what I shared yesterday on the show with Sheila. And basically ensured that my spirit was in complete and total control of this vehicle. And I really worked on that until I felt very centered and very much in control, and sort of commanded that any and all influences, attachments, energies, beings, anything, had to the count of 5 to take off. And that at the end of the count of 5, all portals and wormholes will be closed, and that they would be dissolved back to source at that point. So they had to 5, and I counted to 5, and then I closed everything. And I really did feel a shift. It was really nice. And then, while still in that state of feeling very centered and very connected to my spirit, I asked if there was anything in connection with the chakras that was not serving me, and to scan my body for any and other attachments or implants or whatever, and then commanded spirit to just clear them. And then I didn't try to do anything. I didn't try to visualize anything. I didn't try to make anything happen. I just went into a place of allowing and observing and seeing what happened. And what happened was this, I guess, smoky energy. It sort of looked like smoke, but it was thick in parts, and it was coming from the chakras, and it was different colors. Now, I don't know if I was just removing an influence that was in the chakras, or if it was the chakras. I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you. But there was different colors, and I can remember the colors, but I can't remember, well, some of the colors, but not the order they were in or anything. And it was just like a little vacuum cleaner sitting in front of me, sucking it out, and it was all coalescing into a ball in front of me. And it seemed to take quite a long time. It took a couple of minutes. And as that was coming to an end, then I saw the Kundalini as a coiled snake that was being uncoiled and pulled as well, sucked out and uncoiled. And then when all that process finished and it was all in this ball in front of me, I then, dissolved the ball. And I can honestly say I felt really nice. I felt centered in a way I haven't felt in a while. I felt very connected to my heart. And as I mentioned yesterday, that that whole being heart-centered again and starting to see the beauty in everything and everyone, that started to kick in again. Afterwards, within probably half an hour, I started to get quite emotional and very heartfelt. So that's what I experienced. How, like I said, I don't know what the energy was. I don't know but I know it was attached to the chakras in some way, in relation to the chakras in some way. So I do want to explore this subject more, and I will be doing it on my own. But I really want to hear what you guys, if anything, have done. And Chris, don't back out on me. Can't call in. Sorry, no microphone. Okay. Chakras are astral overlays and will go on their own when we are in tune with our own spirit. Okay. Is that from your own personal experience, Dusty, or is that from Lily or from somebody else? Oh, your experience was similar, Sheila, last night. Minus the Kundalini. Yeah. Because what I didn't want to get into was other people's doctrines, and I want to know what your own personal experiences are, and through your own knowledge, because I know I can sit here and say, well, George says this and Lily says that and so says this. And I mean, I meant when George Kavasilis came out a few years back there and said the chakras are an implant, I thought he'd lost his mind completely. And I know he's not the only one, but he was the first person I heard say that years ago. And I thought, all right, that's it. He's finally gone off the deep end. But now I'm not so sure. Now I think it's worth questioning. And whether, like I said, whether they're just something that can be manipulated or whether they're actually totally an astral implant, as Dusty said, I don't know yet. But Dusty, is that your experience? That's what I'd like to know. And I think the Kundalini is just seriously dangerous. There's not that many people that I've come across in all the stories that I've researched and looked for, and that have had nothing but a positive experience with it. Everyone loses their shit for a while, at the very least. So, oh, what happened? Have we got a Barbara? No, we've got a caller. But I can't hear you. Here we go. No, we lost them. Try again. Okay. Yeah, I had another Kundalini last week. Okay, what does that mean? Talk to me, Chris. Was it positive? Is it something you try to do? Is it something that just comes on spontaneously? Because I know that people who practice certain types of yoga seem to, I mean, there is Kundalini yoga, I know that, but not even that. But just practicing regular yoga seems to, in some people at least, activate something. Any experience physically. Chris, that would be great if you could. Caller, can we?
Oh, can you hear me?
We can now. Who have we got?
We got Jules.
Hi, Jules. How you doing?
I'm good. I thought I would join you in this conversation because I can just share my experience. First thing, I've never heard of somebody removing their chakras.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing now.
Yeah, I never even heard that. But I guess from my own, just from what you've said, and then what I think about immediately is that I can see the chakras being used, like even as Chris said in the chat room about how they can be access points for essentially other entities. But my own experience, because I do a lot of yoga and work on chakras and stuff, have been about opening them to manifest. So I guess it does make sense that quite possibly they can be stop points, right? That makes it more difficult for us to easily manifest. And I guess our natural evolution, in my opinion, would be that we open them up, that our energies flow. But maybe it's, I guess my interpretation is that we've had to work on it ourselves to get the energy flowing to kind of remove those blockages, which could be whatever you want to hold with the chakras. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are you actually someone who could see them in other people as well as yourself?
Okay, sorry, I missed what you just asked me.
Are you someone who can see chakras in other people as well as yourself?
Not really. Like, I've started working a little bit on the energies and trying to see the energies, but I would not tell anybody I can see their chakras.
So in your experience then, just to sort of recap, do you see them as isolated energy centers or working in connection with one another? Do you think that evolving is actually opening them up to the point where they do become one clear channel?
That was always how I've seen that. That's exactly it, is that, they, at one point they were open, but through life experiences, control mechanisms, things we experience, chakras get closed down. That's always been my understanding, and I can definitely see how it's related through my own practice of having certain chakras that were more difficult to access per se. And I can understand why people would feel like they've never had a connection to their chakras, because we've put a lot of mechanisms. Maybe this is planned as as we come back into this matrix, and they make it really difficult for us to access the chakras. But when you open them, there's energy and emotions attached to them in my own experience. I don't know if other people have ever had them, and I can definitely see why people would say they've never really resonated with them, or they just never really felt them, because a lot of them can be closed quite a bit. And some are, my experience, much more difficult to access than others. But each person's going to be very, very different, because each person is so unique, right? So it could be used maliciously, I suppose, and I'm sure it is at a level, and, maybe a dimension that we don't always understand. But I think we have to overcome them ourselves. And I guess removing them would be almost like, well, you didn't really do the work. But, maybe it is that easy that somebody can just remove my chakras.
The whole concept sounded absurd to me at first. But I know that whatever I cleared from them, which is, to be honest, more of what it felt like than actually removing them. It felt that there was energy in there trapped in each of them that wasn't mine, is the best way to describe it. And if you can imagine, I was trying to explain it to Dee the other day, and she said like chiffon, and I said, yeah, kind of like that, like chiffon material where you've got some of it is thicker and rolled up, so there was like thick string through it. And the shift afterwards was the telling point. I did really feel very, very, how can I say it? I don't know. Heart-based just sounds really lame, but connected to a bigger part of myself and connected to my heart in a way that I haven't felt in a while. And it's not even the heart, it's actually higher than that. I'm trying to show it in the camera. It's like, it's here. It's not what we traditionally think of as the heart chakra.
Well, everything always comes back to the heart chakra, right? Like, that's what I think everything always talks about, is really opening up the heart chakras, right? But then if we have all these different energy channels, and then, whatever is in there, and I've always had the Kundalini thing is an interesting thing with the snake, especially now, understanding more dragonology and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You do question that stuff, right? Like, you're like, okay, well, how is that, or is that just, like initially what you said, like, it's a control mechanism, which I've never thought of it that way, but, until it's first told, or shared, and then you're like, oh, I guess that can make sense, that, it definitely, if we can remove the snake, which would be, the draconian, belief systems and stuff that have been so ingrained, and if somebody can bypass it and remove it, can we step up quicker, right?
Mm. I had an interesting experience. I haven't shared this yet, but it was my first QHHT, quantum healing. Oh, is it QHHT? Oh my God, I've gone no. I've gone blank on it. HK, sorry. Holographic kinetics. My first HK experience. I went and had a session. This before I did the course or anything. And that night, I had a dream. And the dream was that I went to scratch the back of my head, and I felt something in my hair. And it felt like it stepped into my hand, and I thought I had a huge spider on the back of my neck. And I freaked out, and I've put my head down, and I'm sort of going through my hair, and I'm yelling out to the people around me, "Shit, I've got a spider on the back of my head." Right? And they've raced over, and as they pull my hair apart, I feel and hear everybody go, and I'm like, what is it? What is it? And they said, it's a snake. And they started to pull it, and I could feel it, and they just kept pulling and pulling and pulling, and I felt this snake uncoil from the back of my neck. It was trippy. It was such a lucid dream that I woke up straight from it, and just like, I still had goosebumps and everything all over me. It was horrible. It felt so real. It made me instantly think of the Kundalini as well. Like, there was a connection between the base of the spine and the brain stem, where this thing was. Have you ever had a Kundalini experience, what people call a Kundalini awakening?
I don't know. I've never really compared what other people's experiences on the Kundalini stuff, and I haven't really practiced that style of yoga. So I've had partially things where I felt energy, but not like the full, from what I understand, is a Kundalini awakening with, like, an electrical pulse per se. But that, that's really interesting, having that dream, because it does seem, totally related to the, like, it seems very clear. You're opening up that energy channel, because if the snake is holding it back and you can remove the snake from it, in that sense, whatever it is, the thing that's blocking it. I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do when they're waking up the Kundalini and opening the chakras, is removing that, right? Whatever you want to call it, the snake, that energy, the thing that's holding us back. So I think that, so I think this kind of does fit what people understand of chakras, but, maybe not to the sense of, like, fully removing chakras. And I wonder, if, in my opinion, like, is it removing, like, they're physically taking them out, or are they removing so the energy just flows? Because I guess if the energy just flows, there would be no separate chakras, right? Because there would be no separation if your energy is completely flowing, which would be my understanding of like a Kundalini awakening, right? Where your energy is flowing and it's just from the root, like from the base of your spine onwards, you're connecting so you can manifest easier in your life. You can tap into your energies and everything and nothing's stopping it. But, you know, whatever these things are that have made us maybe these individual chakras or broken it, maybe it has been, you know, like you said, you know, right put in place from the time we came out of the womb, or it's a program, a part of this matrix or something. But obviously people can overcome it in different ways. So I guess my whole thing would be the definition of what removing the chakras technically looks like in the body. Is it, you know, are they pulling actual energy centers out that were fake there, or are they just opening up around the energy centers so the energy can flow?
Well, I can only tell you the way they're describing it. There are people who say you can only do it to yourself. There are others who say that they are a practitioner of this and they can remove them for you. That sounds dangerous to me, to let someone go messing around like that. And the practice seems to be, you know, you literally use your hands and you sort of, with the intent that you're pulling them out. I don't know. It's just because a few weeks ago, Barbara and I had a discussion about what is it that connects us and holds us in this matrix, in this illusion, in this freaking holodeck or whatever it is. You know, what is it that about us and the environment that has to match in order to keep us here, you know? And had a little discussion around carbon, but I just feel like there's more to it than that. And I was wondering whether it was in fact something to do with the chakras, you know, whether that's in some way.
Well, based on the ideas like of the chakras, like well, based on the idea of the chakra, like the root chakra can. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry, go.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk you. I was just saying, I guess, like, you know, if it being connected to Earth, the root chakra is supposed to be the connection to that, and, you know, to the Earth, right? So, you know, if we remove the chakras, do we still have a connection to the Earth, right? And I guess that's what it means by, like, I guess comes back to my initial question about, like, what does that actually look like, removing the chakras, right? And how the energy goes, because that's a very good question. You have lots of very good questions. Now we need some very good answers.
Very good answers would be great. We've got Chris in the chat room saying that he's had a couple of Kundalini experiences and they've been total bliss.
Well, the energy is moving, right? So that makes sense because you're connected, and the energy, you're just that light being. And I think that's because I've had many dreams and meditations and stuff where everything comes back about how we're just energy, right? And about being light beings, and this has become, you know, keeps getting told to me in case I didn't believe it. And so if we have these chakras, which are like the little things that are partially maybe enchained or I guess imprisoned energies that they can create somehow, however this works out, that as soon as you have them flowing, you're going to feel like you're in bliss because you're going to be starting to go back to what's true, right? You're more into your true form. That would be what I would see that as myself. But it's an interesting thing. This is very interesting.
I've just been asked the question in the chat room whether HK helps to contact your spirit or your source. And as a byproduct, I'd say yes, because you're clearing, you know, a lot of interference. So it's just about clearing interference. Do you need HK to do that? Not necessarily. I think there's a lot of ways you can go about clearing interference, attachments. And I think that's what I did the other day on the beach. That simple process, that was my intent, was to clear. And every time you do clear, you know, you become a little bit purer, I guess, and are more able to be in contact with your own source and your own spirit. So as a byproduct, yeah. It's not like that's the objective of the modality from the outset. It's just that's the byproduct of getting clear. You have to look into, just bear with me while we read some of these comments in the chat room. You have to look into working with chi energy as well as the chakras. It can be very dangerous if used wrong. Okay. And the question is, so are chakras like filters? They can trap negative and positive energy depending on the environment. Or can they trap? Oh, hang on. Chat room just updated on me. I've lost everything. Okay. Depending on the environment. Also like a cell that can be cancerous. Maybe.
Well, and I guess my opinion on that, like about the filter, would be, well, I think it's more like if it's clear energy and it's positive, you know, and it's good for you, it's going to go through, right? And if it's not, and you don't deal with it properly, it can get stuck. So I guess in this sense, it is a filter, but I think it only really holds in things that you get stuck on. That was always my experience when I've had some opening of some chakras. My heart center was a really interesting one to open up, and I spent a lot of time opening the heart chakra. And it was because what stopped the energy from moving was my own like experiences and things that my own pile of, what I like to say in my group, my pile of crap is really what was stopping my energy from flowing through that. And then, you know, that's how I see the chakra. So I see like, I guess it comes back to the own personal work of your own energies. And again, setting that intention to clear. And I believe it has to come from you for sure, because if you're clearing them, you will eventually kind of remove the thing that's stopping it, because you're not going to be holding those energies anymore, right? Because as you go through your shit and you deal with it and you truly deal with it, my own experience is it doesn't have a control over you anymore. And you no longer react the same way. You no longer even think about the situation the same way. So these energies can't be trapped because you're not thinking the same way. So I think the natural evolution is really removing the chakras, but I don't know if people have used it in that term before.
You know, I have to say, in connection to this heart chakra thing, I used to work, I did a healing modality years ago. I think I studied it about 12, 13 years ago. And it worked a lot with your chakras, getting them balanced and spinning the right way and doing all that. But what I feel now, and I used to be able to tap into them all and identify them. But what I feel now, when I say heart space, it's not the heart chakra. It's almost as if it's above and at the same time behind the chakras. It's how do I put it? Okay, if I'm sideways. Say the chakras are in the front of the body. This feels, it's deeper into my being and slightly higher than where I would feel my heart chakra. It's interesting. It's like when they talk about that central sun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the heart chakra. It's something else. It's another center.
Well, and is it the opening of, you know, multiple chakras to create that energy? You know, that opening of that energy into that area, right? Like if we are talking about removing chakras, you know, is it possible that as you're clearing, maybe you're clearing the heart chakra and maybe it was the mixture of the heart and the throat, for example, that created a whole new energy area, because it's now, you know, maybe it's not fully being able to transmute and move out, but you've got more clearing, so you're feeling the energy in a different way? I don't know. That's an interesting thing. Or, you know, are you coming back to the true energy?
It doesn't actually feel as if it's part of the chakra system. It's yet another energy center, if that makes sense. It's not connected to it. And there is lots of energy. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go on. No, when I do really feel connected to source and connected to my own spirit, my own energy, it's that spot. It's separate from the chakra system. It's not the heart chakra.
Well, and I think that's really interesting because I don't know if necessarily everybody's chakras are in the same place, and if it doesn't feel the same, because chakras do move, multiple dimensions and are fully around you, right? And there is other energy systems that overlay, because if you start talking about the other energy channels that exist, there's many possibilities. I'm very sure that can happen, right? Because if you think about like acupuncture, they do all the different other energy channels. And so there's many different ways that energies travel throughout our body. So maybe you're just tapping into maybe a new mixture of energy, maybe a whole different system that, we don't even maybe talk about. It's a very interesting thing because it's obviously some energy from somewhere, or maybe it's just like what happens when you do release your energy and it's flowing properly, right?
Mm-hmm. Lisa, would you do anything else with HK? Do you need to? Do I need to? The process of clearing and keeping your vessel clear and clean, I think, is ongoing. Yeah, I don't know if you're ever done, because there's too many influences and energies out there that we can consciously and unconsciously interact with, or contract with, or welcome in. So I think it's an ongoing process. And I learnt a lot in terms of just tools for empowering myself on how to keep myself clear and continuing to recognize and then release energies that aren't mine, which is why I felt the need to go and do what I did on the weekend. And what I did was okay, so feeling confused as to what I'm to feel when asking for spirit. Years ago, the way, God, this is going back a long time. The way I started was kind of like using my own body as a pendulum. And once you're really sort of connected to your own spirit, there's no denying it, you'll know. But asking, or commanding, actually, that your spirit and your spirit alone is in total control of your vehicle. And then talk to spirit, and if you're not sure about what an answer is, just ask spirit to move your body, sort of left and right for a yes or no, and forward and back for a yes or no. And then just don't try and force anything, just gently feel which way your body wants to move. That's how I sort of played around with it many, many years ago. But I certainly tried to make sure that I was the one I was talking to start with before I asked questions. And if it doesn't feel right, you'll know. Did you?
Well, it's interesting. Sorry, it's interesting what you're saying, because it comes down to something that's come up multiple times for myself, is trust, like trusting our instincts. I think that's where a lot of us, even going down this, we're like, oh, are we making this up in our own head, right? Are we, is this real? Is it not? And coming back to like knowing that, even though like your gut is telling you yes, but you're like, oh, no, you're, it's coming back to that true gut trust. And it's interesting because I did a journeying, which this came into actually this morning. I did it. And I was asking about the white light program, because I started watching that golden, whatever gate that you guys had posted, whoever posted in the, posted in the chat yesterday. And they were talking about the white light program. And I was like, okay, so I get they're trying to keep us in this matrix. So I was kind of like asking a question about it to my upper earth, spirit, which is really, in my opinion, a reflection of my own soul that I'm speaking to. And that's how I've always interpreted it. And it was interesting because what it showed me was that it's like, well, if I tell you to go in there, would you go in there? And I'm like, and then in my mind, I said, I of course would follow. But in my own gut, like in this journey, I didn't feel right. Right. And it was funny because I said, well, yes, I would. And be like, well, no. It's like, if they are trying to, if this is, my conversation going on is, if they are trying to manipulate you, they're going to show you somebody that they're going to follow to go through the white light. Follow your gut. That's the only thing you need to do when you pass, is follow the gut. Follow your instincts. That's everything, is following your instincts. And I had multiple conversations that I was having and questions we were, in during this journey. So it kind of overlapped with a number of different things. It wasn't just specifically about the white light, but it was an interesting thing because that just reminded me of this trust, right? Like trusting that even if we don't have like a hardcore example in this 3D fake reality, of course we're not going to have this example in the 3D fake reality. We're going to get it in the subtle ways a lot of times versus the, being, sometimes we will get the full shake, but we do intuitively. We always know, and we've always known. We just forget how to listen.
Oh, I agree. We've completely forgotten how to listen. And, well, it's not even forgotten. We've been programmed to doubt ourselves just so completely. And not understand that our own spirit is always there and always talking to us. But we write that off. It's just your imagination. It's it's
just a coincidence, right? Everything's a coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. We've been, let's face it, we've been fucked with, but that goes to the bigger question of how much of this did we consent to in the first place?
I know, and that is a really big question, because it's also one of those questions that can go and be very depressing, because you don't know how much, that opens a whole new thing of how I feel about certain things, what you just said there. And, where do we go from a lot of the stuff that we know? And, and following this path and going, well, if, we've all been told to follow the white light, and the white light is actually part of the controlling systems, which you could totally easily see how they've easily convinced us something like that, right? Because it's always been, if you watch anything like the Ghost Whispers, it was like, follow the light, right? So you see how this has been like totally infiltrated through generations, when it comes back down to, it's like, we have to come back to reading our true self. And we're not taught how to listen to our bodies, let alone our chakras, let alone our soul. That's not, you're not taught any of that. And then, you get to a point where you start questioning it. And depending, if you're younger, you've got more years. And then as you come into it later, you've still got lots of time. But, it can be more difficult the longer it's been that you haven't been connected to the truth in yourself, right? So, yeah, it's interesting.
I even interviewed Daniel Brinkley. He's one of the most well-known people in the whole OBE scene, for want of a better word. And it was after that I had a direct personal experience that led me to believe completely that this illusion, this matrix, you don't get out of it when you pass. It's multidimensional. And I came to call it the rinse and repeat cycle. That, it's like we just get rinsed off and thrown back in the washing machine. And that the white light business and the tunnel and all of that is, in fact, the track. It's that little shiny object that says, look over here, come this way. And not to go there. I had a few confirmations, personal ones, after that too, from friends who are very kind of tuned in. And one, as an example, would be her mother, girlfriend's mother, visited her after she died and warned her not to go to the light and told her how scary it was. And that came up in the conversation just kind of out of the blue. She didn't know what my take was on that.
What's interesting is if you think about the ancient Egyptians, how much time they spent their whole life planning to die and preparing for their death. That's what they planned on, their evolution, their spiritual evolution, and planning on how to die. And then you think about the fact that we don't even talk about it. So then what we've been programmed to think, well, no wonder it's easy to keep us in this matrix and, and continue to keep us, because they've programmed us to follow the light. And they've done it very well, because that's what, people, it doesn't matter who they are, they believe that, oh yeah, if I die, follow the light, or you might get stuck here, and then the ghost whisperer is going to have to help you find your way out of here, right? So it's very interesting, because it has become obvious that resonated with me. And then, after my own journey and going, yeah, like how easily we can be fooled by something that appears to be a family member or a friend that, would meet us on the other side, and so you're like, wow, that opens a whole new level of the manipulation and the lies that, these interdimensional that I maybe hadn't thought about. I hadn't even really opened this door until last year. So, it's a lot of stuff that has come out as this door is opened. And it is really interesting on how badly they need us. And that's the situation. And so, then I see all these coincidences of issues of where, whatever is happening when this consciousness is changing is because it's the reaction of like how desperate it is that they need us to stay in this matrix, and how much it's like, is the way out, which I actually thought about this, and I'm not suicidal, but is the way out killing yourself, making sure you don't find the light so then you can come back and remember your lives and then help everybody else leave the matrix? I don't know. I actually had the thought.
Yeah.
Sorry?
That's occurred to me too, to leave intentionally on your terms, with the absolute intent that I'm not going anywhere near that light. And funny, Chris just put into the chat room, yeah, I'm not going anywhere near that light, no intention of coming back to this clusterfuck.
Well, and you think about that, because then I think about, ascended masters, and I know that's all the controversy of stuff like that. And, I've done a lot of research in the yoga, because that's really where I started this. It talks about, how many lives you have to work through all your karma and all this stuff. And I remember early on going, well, this is bullshit. Like, how many effing lives do I have to live? Like, I want to get rid of this, because then my knowledge of that is that I'm filled with karma. And if I want out of this insanity, I need to get rid of my karma. And then it's an interesting thing as you go through this and you start to understand more so what that means. And then you see, well, they chose to leave. Like if you look at Brahmananda Yogananda, he chose to leave. His body was still alive when his spirit left. He chose. He didn't go to the white light. And that's what these people, masters, knew, is they knew the way out and could choose that. So that's the interesting thing, is like, well, is waking humanity up, waking up to understanding that we have full-on choices everywhere, that we're not blocked down by all the things that we see, especially those that aren't on this path at this moment, opening up and learning things, not even, essentially being victims of the control mechanisms that are, right? And you're really unfree, as good English, I speak well. You're very, when you're in the system, and the amount of people that I deal with that are so terrified of starting to even open that door is really insane. But I see how it is scary, because it changes everything you've ever thought and ever been told. Like everything you've ever been taught and told being a lie. And even when you think you've reached the limit of everything that's possibly, that you've never, that you think could be the way it is, right? When you think you've hit that wall, and I'm sure Dee said that. Sorry?
And then you discover
Did somebody else just say that? Well, exactly. So it's yeah, and so it's interesting. So bringing up like the chakra thing, like that's another concept for myself I never even thought of. It never even occurred to me about the chakras being control mechanisms. But then it does make sense. And then it does make sense that, well, is the control mechanisms, are they put in place, or are they little triggers that are just placed in us easily, so as soon as we have one emotional thing, it closes it. And then it takes us our life to open that freaking emotional crap out of that, right? Or some of them, do they take, get lots of layers? And, is it just removing those little locks on the chakras to get the energy flowing, and then you have no separated energies? Maybe there's a whole new energy center we're supposed to do. I don't personally know at this, moment of my own experience. I haven't had that. But it is really interesting. And I do enjoy watching you guys, because these are things that I would never have thought of. And, without that, how do I question if I'm even doing things that make sense? I can't even question things if I've never even thought that didn't make sense before.
Yeah. Honestly, this year has been an amazing journey of questions, and every question leads to more questions. And I've questioned yeah, you don't even know, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't question what you've never occurred to you to question, or what you've just accepted as true. It's been quite an eye-opening year, and everything from freaking flat earth to Mandela effect to chakras to white lights, and I mean the stuff that we've just that's been introduced to us as children, that we've just accepted that this is the way our reality is and the way it works, and never questioned. I mean, I got to a point a long time ago where it's like, well, if society and the government is telling me to look left, then I've got to look right. But because what is it they don't want me to see? But that even that was not enough to start really kind of unraveling this reality that I'm in, and what it's really all about. I've never questioned so much as I have this year, I don't think.
I would agree with you. I've never either, and most of these concepts are, in this last year have been brand new things that I had, didn't even maybe think about, but I knew things were off. So once they started opening, it all just clicked into place to why things didn't ever feel right for myself. And I think that's where a lot of us come from, right? It's just, I spent a lot of time prior to about opening to the truth in the last year and a half prior to this last year. And then I was like, I asked for this. Sometimes I'm like, it would have been easier to just go back to my asleep mentality. Cause sometimes it is a little bit much, even, when you're open, you're like, cause sometimes I don't, for myself, and I'm sure there's other people like that, you don't know what to do with this information. So, okay, we start learning everything's a lie. I was watching, I think it was a Sacred Geometry on, what's the other show? The one that he was doing, Tetra. He does the Dutch version as well of the show. But he was talking about a whole new chemistry, right? And again, how much, when I was watching it, how much more sense it made than what I had been taught. And then going, okay, well, I've got this information. I now know that there's a lot of questions, and I already knew, but now I've got even more evidence to how that we know, we're told nothing correct that we're really being taught. And then, having a daughter and going, well, what do I do with her now? How do I put her in, even if I'm definitely going to plan to homeschool her, but it's this information, even when we get this new information, how long does it take for people to all know this information, right? And then you go into the whole consciousness of how are we having this great awakening because things are just being thought about so much more, and there's more and more people thinking about it. So then more and more people are catching that thought because we're all connected. So it gives me hope that this stuff will change. But at the same time, what do you initially do when you learn new information to be active and make so other people learn this information, right? Yeah, and there's obviously some timing to why a lot of this stuff is coming very out and open that it was not on our consciousness for years before. The energy's changing. This is all. There's a reasoning at some level, I'm sure, to why this is all happening now and wasn't happening 20 years ago. So no.
Sometimes I feel like throwing my hands up in the air. I know I can count on you. Sometimes I feel like saying, Lord, I just don't care. But you've got the love I need to see me through.
Our apologies, guys. That was at my end. My internet just disappeared. Sorry about that. Jules was referring to Johan Oldenkamp and his information when I dropped off. So, sorry, Jules, I don't know what I missed.
Sorry, I missed the last thing that you said that you heard from me.
You made a reference to Johan Oldenkamp and the show that he does on CCN and the information, the geometry.
Oh, yes. My point was that it was new information that I received, right? And from watching about I may say it totally wrong, the tetronics or whatever, how the chemistry is, that last one that he had done recently. And then my thought was that, I have this new information and I think, and it makes more sense, and it seems like it's a much better way of understanding chemistry and the things that are around it. But how do we implement that, now going forward? Because I was just thinking of the process for my daughter. Like, I definitely plan to homeschool her, was what I was also mentioning. But it comes down to being, I want her to get better and more accurate information and question the information. And you go to like the textbooks, like how long will this information take for people to start even looking at it and utilizing it and referencing it to change, right? And then the whole idea that we are changing because we've got little pockets of thoughts that are happening and people are catching the awakening, like people are just waking up more, right? People are understanding things more. That's why we're hearing things, especially in this last year, that never occurred to us, right? So that would be my hope with a lot of this information, is that it's going to come into reality faster, that it's going to become more prevalent. People will be searching for that knowledge, but I don't know. And then I forgot where I was going with that thought.
Well, according to Biggie,
and
what
then you
you're
were there.
referring to in particular is tetrionics.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly it. And that was really interesting and made more sense than anything I ever learned in chemistry before. And I was very disengaged as a student in the system and never enjoyed school. But yeah, it was very interesting. And just the whole, how much we can change by learning things better and understanding things that I'm sure that they know at some level, because if they've been playing with this technology, they understand the truth of what's going on in, the chemistry and stuff. We just aren't privy to it, right? And I'm tired of that myself. And I know that's what we talk about. So it's like, how do we get these solutions? Is it removing the chakras, right? Do we just get, can we find a short way to like cut it, whatever's blocking the energy or whatever this means, to remove it so we become the pure energy being that we're supposed to be? And then also like escaping the matrix. How do we escape out of it? Or is our only way out? And I'm like, that sounds bad, but is our only way out like the death thing? And that was really depressing, because that was something I was thinking about, obviously, recently, because of the journey, the journey and the video from yesterday.
I think it is. I think there's enough. I think we've left ourselves enough clues throughout history that tell us it has to be done in body. Maybe it's about what do you want to call it, the 100th monkey or some kind of, tipping point. But I do feel like there is, whatever this thing is that we're in, this holodeck, that we, just to use the holodeck analogy, the only way to end the simulation is if enough of us feel that and get to a certain point. And I think it has to be done from within. It's like we are a virus inside it, and it has to be done from in body, from within it. That's my feeling at the moment. I don't think, because I did that too. I questioned it. I was like, wow, do I actually have to get out of here first? Thank you. Take myself,
and then make a different choice, right?
And attack it from the outside, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then I look at it and I'm like, but I don't want to do that. Like, and that was exactly my thought. I'm like, no, that's like, I definitely don't want to do that. So it's an interesting thing, because it's like, well, where's that 100th monkey? Because I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired of this information, and not like, because the information seems to be coming faster than we can make the physical changes, right? And that, because everything, and I've heard Lily say about like the chaos we see is totally the reflection of, what's going on as humanity on the psyche on that level. But it is, I totally feel when you guys talk about, I want this to be ended. Like, let's end this simulation, and, let's move forward. Let's go. But it is difficult, because then you go out, and you've talked about this before, and then you deal with the mass majority of society, and you're like, we're so not ready. And then you're back right here going, okay, should I remove my chakras? What should we do this week?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, some of getting back to the questioning everything thing, I mean, and science, and what I've learned over the last sort of 6 months in particular is that a lot of what we're told is fact, science fact, is actually just theoretical. And they have to they come up with a theory to explain something, but that theory is so flawed, they have to come up with other theories to support how that theory can work. And it's just theories built on top of theory. It's a house of cards. They can see how something works. They can see the result of what is working, and then they have to try and come up with a theory as to why it works that way. Because all they can really see are the results. And it's the theories that they're trying to come up with to explain the results. We're told a fact, and they're not necessarily. And the science books, haven't changed to reflect anything. I mean, classic friggin' example. There was a little clip that went around Facebook the other day. I don't know if anybody saw it, of what they were calling the flying pulpit. Did anybody see that? It was literally
I did not myself.
It was a one-person flying machine, right? And it looked like an old chariot, the way that's shaped, and you just sort of step into it. This thing took off vertical, landed vertical. I think it did 60 miles an hour. It could stop in midair, and the whole thing was based on just leaning in terms of which direction you're going. It could do sharp turns. It was pretty amazing. They decided it wasn't good enough for military applications. And this footage that I saw was taken in 1973. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just shelved. It was never considered for civilian use or anything like that. And we are still getting around in vehicles on over 100-year-old technology, combustion engines. And there's absolutely no reason for it. Yeah, it was kind of like
it's really frustrating.
Yeah, but science, mainstream, this is the best we can do right now. We know it's not. We absolutely know it's not. Water powered, solar powered, electric. These are all options, and we know why they're not options for us in the real world. But it's the mainstream will tell you it's because it's nothing else is as efficient, or will get you to. I mean, who needs a car that can do 260 miles an hour when you're never allowed to go that fast on any road in the world?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Well, and I've really been really frustrated specifically about what you're talking about, like with the technology that we do have and that they've been using and they've had for, before I was born, is really frustrating because I was watching that after Fana talked about and showed the David Greer and some of the highlights. I actually went back and watched like a couple other of his videos because I found it really interesting. And him disclosing and I'd heard this before and I'd seen this before about how many people are shut down with that, with essentially like the Tesla type of technology or the 0 point technology, and that it is possible and people are constantly coming out with it, but it's being done secret, so they're easily shut down, they're easily quieted, they're easily stolen through the trademark system. And then I go, well, people, I think you guys were talking about how people end up broke right after winning all the millions of dollars if they win the lottery. Like, people win this all the time. Why aren't any of them just giving up money to freaking David Greer to devote? You don't need it. You're just going to waste it anyways. Just give it to David. Let him do it in the open so we can get our 0 point technology. Oh, wait, we're so ego-based and only care about this fictitious money. The people that are buying the lotto tickets, they wouldn't do it. And I'm like, I would do it, but I'm not buying lotto tickets. So this is how this works, right? But it's an interesting thing because it is frustrating because, I'm going, my whole life has been a lie. Why am I using essentially caveman technology in something that we should be living more like the Jetsons? And we're all in this group are aware of that. And it is really frustrating because, I look at this and I look at all this crap everywhere, and you're like, none of this has to be this way. And it just doesn't. Like, we have so much more technology. How do we get access to it?
Well, I keep coming back to that saying of, and I'm going to bastardize it, I can't remember the quote exactly, but you'll know the one I mean, about, you know, making the old paradigm obsolete by creating a completely different one. And that's where my energy is, you know, off screen. What I'm doing and the people I'm working with, it's all about creating an alternative system that makes this old one obsolete, and doing it in such a way that we can create, you know, I mean, if this little matrix here is a snow dome, we're going to create our own little snow dome inside of it, and just go ahead and do. And that's, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here on my terms. That's the way. That's where I've gotten to. While we've been talking, the chat room is having a great conversation without us. They've talked about karma. When we touched on that, everybody believes that the whole karma thing is BS program.
Mm-hmm.
To give you the HK perspective on karma, it's that when you create anything, you get to experience that creation from all aspects. So if you, out of your thoughts, intentions, and actions, create a scenario that is of you giving something positive, then you will also be in the other end. You'll experience the receiving of something positive. And the same goes for something negative. And it's just simply experiencing your creation from all aspects. That would be the HK.
I agree. Yeah. Well, and I always wondered, because I know in my own thing, when I got to that karma thought was, well, who's keeping the effing tally and adding this on my soul, right? Like, and that was, but you know, that's also my thought of, like, when I always, you know, thought about religion when I was very young. I'm like, if some guy is keeping a score and is going to tell me that I'm bad because I didn't go to church, he can go F himself. And I remember thinking that really, you know, being young, like, who's keeping these tallies? They can't be existing. It's all internal. Like, it doesn't work in this, like, you know, those old things. That'd be, you know.
On the other hand, if we did inherit this bureaucratic, hierarchical system from something else, then it makes perfect sense that they've probably got accountants too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh yes, this is. Well, I think I'll let you go because I know I've been hogging your time. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I really enjoy your shows. Oh, and I wanted to mention, because I mentioned this before when you disappeared, I'm hoping Barbara shows up because I'm a little concerned and I miss her.
Me too. This is not like her at all. But she was having computer issues, I heard.
Okay. As long as she's okay, that's all that matters.
I will get her to post an update of her well-being as soon as I can get through to her on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and hopefully somebody else will call in and talk.
Thank you, Jules.
Thanks.
It's been great. Thank you. Okay, so that conversation covered a lot more. Oh, what was that? We covered off a lot more than just chakras and Kundalini in that, but that was interesting. And you guys have had fun in the chat room by the looks of it. And yes, the Emmanuel Velikovsky books, and Worlds in Collision in particular, I've just started reading it. Apparently a message from Barbara was that there was a lot of military activity in the sky in her place, and it was affecting her internet connection. Do tell what's going on over there. Jules, yeah, thank you again for calling in. That was really good. And Chris is going to post some links in the Unfuckers room on Facebook in regards to chakras and Kundalini, I believe. If you want to confirm that for me, for those who want to look into this a little bit more. Yeah, I agree, John. Heart and mind are powerful tools that need to work together, but in balance. We might cut this short because I still have a head cold. But this is a conversation that I do think warrants further investigation. You know, as we're looking at all of the tools that are used to manipulate, not just manipulate and control us, but to in fact anchor us here in this matrix. I'm prepared personally to look at anything and question anything, and try not to be attached to any previous belief. Somebody, I think it was Candy, mentioned earlier in the chat room that when she now looks back at some of the things that she's fallen for or believed in, you know, she just laughs at herself, and it's kind of embarrassing. Yeah, I think we can all relate to that. But I don't think that we've got anything to be embarrassed about or ashamed of when it comes to questioning. And I'm prepared to question everything. And I think that's, for me at least, the only way I'm going to find the answers. And I know all I do is come up with more questions, but at least the path of questioning feels like it's getting clearer and narrowed down, if that's a good way of describing it. I'm not sure if it is. Looks like some people are having internet issues from all over the place. If you've got, I don't have one handy with me, Patty, but if you've got a download link for Worlds in Collision, where people, I do have one somewhere. I'd love you to share it either in this chat room or in the Unfuckers room, because it really is quite a read and supports a lot of the questions that we're asking. So heads up, Biggie, let's say thank you, and we'll cut this short a half an hour early, and I will go and try and clear my head. But thank you everyone for participating today. We'll find out where Barbara is, and you know, she's all okay. I'm sure she is. But this is, if you've got any information on this, if you want to share your own personal stories and your thoughts on this, your questions around it, if you come up with any videos or articles or websites or anything that goes into this, please share it in the Collective Imagination Facebook page. If you're not on Facebook, just email it to me and I'll get it shared in there. There's more to this conversation. There's more to this subject. I'd hate to think that someone's doing something harmful to themselves if removing the chakras is harmful. But I want to hear positive and negative. Chris, you've obviously had some really positive experiences with Kundalini and chakras. So I want to, you know, get a well-rounded view on all this. So please share. Okay. Thanks, guys. Sorry we're cutting it short. And I'll see you next week for the roundtable. Bye for now.
The pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world should be the focus of every person on our planet. The reason it is not is because people are kept distracted by the illusions and deceit propagated by the corporately controlled mainstream media. In recent years, the rise in truly informed, savvy researchers and journalists who have all taken to the air in various capacities has given rise to a new genre of media. We have seen the explosion of truly free and independent media, and thus the need to create an ethical live broadcast network that facilitated these brave and tireless souls became apparent. With a great amount of research and meticulous planning, Conscious Consumer Network was created. CCN is a first-of-its-kind broadcast network that is specifically dedicated to free and independent media with absolutely no government control, corporate sponsorship, or advertising. The live broadcast network runs full-time with an average of 25 shows and live broadcasts a week. The high-definition live stream is free to view and is accessible from any computer terminal with online access, including laptops, tablets, smartphones, and smart TVs. All shows are archived onto YouTube and are freely available to view in order to educate and inform as many as we can without imposing monetary limitations. CCN was successfully launched on the 1st of January 2015 and has gone from strength to strength as we have improved and increased the capacities and functionalities of the network, as well as an ever-rotating and improving lineup of content which is broadcast daily. CCN is blessed to be the home of some of the hardest-hitting, most cutting-edge, truly educational and informative materials. Catch interviews, reviews, and talk shows from the many different and beautiful perspectives from CCN's family of interviewers and broadcasters. Since the 1st of January 2015, we have produced over 800 shows. We have over 2 million YouTube minutes watched every month, and we have an average of 1 million hits a day on CCN's website. CCN is viewed in over 147 different countries and hosts broadcasters from 5 different continents. The time has now come to generate funding to keep CCN on the air for the duration of 2016. The total sum needed to continue broadcasting for 2016 is $60,000. This budget includes the replacement of computer equipment, the acquisition of secure servers, which are most needed as we keep getting hacked, plus the renewal of the broadcast license fee for 2016. This is a fraction of the annual budget used by mainstream media networks producing a similar quantity of content. This is what makes CCN so successful, unique, and accessible, is the ability to run a project of this size and reach on such minimal resources. CCN does not claim ownership over any of the material we produce and broadcast, as we firmly believe that information is the common heritage of all beings, and thus CCN belongs to you, the public, and it is up to you all to keep CCN going. CCN would like to thank those who have contributed to the network in the past with resources, content, information, time, and energy. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.